Team, I just wanted to share a quick video on how to complete Section 6 of our Fire Safety Assessors template for Pathway 1 and Pathway 2. I'm just sharing my screen at the moment, and I've completed Section 5 and Section 6 for automatic fire detection systems. So in Section 5, you can see that the installation date is 2015. And all of this comes from essentially Section 1. And then I've given a brief description of the system installed. And it's a fire detection system which includes smoke alarms, EWIS, air pressurisation and smoke control. So it's a fairly complex system, and I did that on purpose. Just to give you an idea of the way your Section 6 checklist should look. And as you can see, this is specifically from the performance requirements are coming from the fire safety schedule. And the fire safety schedule in this case for automatic fire detection alarm systems is fairly complex. It's a BCA 2014 Spec E.2A, AS 1670 2004 version, and AS 1668 1998, and also AS 3786, which is smoke alarms. So it includes almost everything you could possibly get with a detection alarm system. And so that is what goes in the performance requirements, basically what's on the schedule. Use some third party. So I'm doing this based on being a fire safety assessor only. I didn't obviously do this testing and inspecting, nor did I have to or need to in order to do a fire safety assessment of the system. I just want to point out too that each of these fields has instructions, and when you hover over the field with your mouse indicator, it tells you what to put in the field. So I've gone down to the documents required. And essentially, guys, this is a desktop audit. So we should be doing a desktop audit, preparing ourselves for our on-site visit. And I just spent probably 2 hours doing this. And I sat here and thought, well, what do I need to do this assessment in order to determine the performance of this system for that spec? I need a zone block plan, mechanical functionality chart, the test system results or the service records, the system plans and design information, and the system test history and logs. And the reason I put that there is because although most of our service records, and technically under today's standard as of today, 1668 isn't yet legislated. However, what else do you use in order to confirm operation and functionality? So the history logs would indicate any outstanding defects and any major services. For example, in this system, we'd be looking for the detectors being within date or having that 10-year cycle that the fire detectors have. So that's the stuff that I figured I needed. I would collect this information and I would sit and I would review this information and complete a lot of my checklist before I even went to site. And when I go to site, I'm going to use this checklist to confirm the things that I believe is required to assess this system's performance based on the fire safety schedule's performance requirements. Now, the first 3 columns, guys, you've got to put in as per these instructions. If you don't do that, there are 3 boxes that I can't tick on the assessment sheet. And if you don't get those 3 boxes ticked, it'll come out as a score, which is not acceptable. So the first one here says details must relate to using a plan to identify the location of the installed equipment, even if a plan is not available. And AS 1670 specifically requires documentation. And if we don't have that documentation, it's a non-conformance defect. And you've got to confirm that the system drawings, I've said here, I've confirmed that the system drawings and baseline data are installed adjacent to the FIP, and confirm the installation equipment is installed in the locations nominated. I've said, is this critical? Well, no, it's not critical to the performance of the system that we have this information. It's very useful for us. It failed. And I've made a comment that there are no system drawings or baseline data installed. A non-conformance defect with recommendations has been issued. So let's just look at that and go, where did I get that information and why is it required? So I'm going to open 1670.1. I nominated section 7, so I'm going to go to section 7, commissioning. And it specifically says in 1670 that on completion of the installation of the unified detection alarm system and those parts of the system installed affected by modifications or additions, the system shall be commissioned in accordance with the following requirements. Check that the equipment has been located and installed and interconnected in accordance with the system documentation. To check that the equipment has been designed and constructed in accordance with the relevant equipment standards. Symbols as given in Appendix D shall be used. The drawings shall show the following where applicable. As installed drawings come in the system. So the as installed drawings need to be installed next to the panel. And if it's not there, it's a non-conformance defect. So I'm just showing you we need to go to the standards and we need to measure this system against this standard, and documentation is a specific requirement of AS 1670. So I've included it on my checklist. So that's where the first line comes from. The second line is check that the system components have been logged on the equipment register and located as installed. So we need to confirm that all of the equipment has actually been installed and we have a record of that installed equipment. Otherwise, when we go to the third line where we're reviewing the service records, if all of our equipment isn't logged, then the service records can't be correct. So these first three lines are the fundamental basics of confirming a system's function and operation. So the second one is all about essentially confirming that you have a record of all of the installed equipment for any given system. And this applies to any system that you'll be assessing. Is it critical? I believe that's critical. I don't believe that we can validate or use service records unless we can confirm that all of the equipment is in fact counted for. So I've passed that. I said there's no equipment register available. However, the installed equipment is located and confirmed from the service records and the log. So the third line indicates that the details must relate to reviewing the service records and confirm that outstanding defects have been repaired and all inspection and tests have passed. This would also include major service activities. So my details of what I've done to confirm that is confirm the system has been tested and passed with no outstanding defects and the service records comply with Section 1 of AS 1851. So once again, AS 1851 is not required, but chances are it probably will be, and Section 1 has specific requirements for the type of record that we should be reviewing. And in this case, it's logs. Test logs were reviewed to confirm. So the logs can be electronic logs or they can be logs that are paper logs. So that's just the fundamental basics, the first three lines. That must be done the way that instruction specifically says it should be. So then the rest of the checklist is completed based on the performance requirement of the schedule. So it says that we've got to confirm that the system's installed in accordance with the BCA spec E.2A. And when you go to the volume, the National Construction Code, remember you can download the National Construction Code, every single version of it. This is the 2014 version, volume 1, class 2 to 9 buildings. If we go over here to the right, we go to section E. We're looking for E2.2A, the spec. If we go to E2.2, general requirements, it very quickly moves us into the E2.2A specification. So if we can usually just find that and click on it, we can go to table 2.2A, and then underneath that table we'll find the spec, which is what we've got to look at in accordance with the schedule. I'm just scrolling down here until I find the specification. I've got a specification E.2B. Here we go, E2.2A specification. So I've read through this whole specification and I've determined which parts of the specification apply to my system, and I've recorded it. So spec E.2.2A, the first section, there's a lot in there. So I've actually broken it up into 3 separate lines. So the first one says confirm that the installed system complies with clause 2, combined smoke detection and smoke alarms in clause 3, and smoke alarms are to be 240-volt photoelectric type. And clause 4 says the detectors must be installed in all other parts of the building. So that's one thing I've got to confirm. And when I go to site, I've got to confirm, or possibly using the service records, I may be able to confirm this, that the smoke alarms, which are in the sole occupancy units, are a 240-volt type and they're photoelectric. And then the rest of the system has smoke detectors in it. And I'll just put a comment here. I said yes to that, passed. I'll just put a comment here to confirm with the visual inspection and review of the service records. So essentially, I'm just documenting what my methodology or process is for determining the performance of this system. So section 2.2A also has a bit that relates to the system in clause 5, smoke control. Confirm the installation of detectors at lift landing doors. The spacing of the detectors at lift landing doors and automatic air handling systems, and activation of the smoke exhaust. So essentially that's what I'm looking to confirm. How am I going to confirm that? This fails. The installation of detectors locations was confirmed, so I can do that visually. However, the interface testing of the AC shutdown and the smoke control could not be confirmed due to the mechanical functionality chart is not available. So up here, you'll notice that I've said the mechanical functionality chart is used to verify the system has been tested correctly and compare it to the system test results. I don't have that functionality chart, so how can I confirm that the system, in fact, functions? So it would take, I would need a functionality chart of some kind to actually confirm that the smoke control system was operating in accordance with clause 2.2A. In addition, clause 6, occupant warning systems, I've got to confirm the OWS is activated by the detection system, and there's a sound levels of 100 dB are recorded outside the sole occupancy unit. It specifically says that in clause E.2A. It is a class 2 building. How do I confirm that? Well, I confirmed it using the service records, and I was looking for those values of sound levels. recorded outside of the sole occupancy unit. 85 dB is required inside the unit at the bedhead, but 100 dB, and this specifically says that in the building code under spec 2.28. All right, so I think I've covered that spec. I've made my decisions based on these comments. Then I'm now moving to 1670. As you can see, we've got a requirement of 1670.1, 2004 version. So look, you've got to have these standards, guys. You can't get away from that, and you've got to go to that documentation, and you've got to determine what aspects of AS 1670 will apply. And that's what this checklist is all about. It's creating a methodology and then confirming specific aspects of the standard. Simply testing and inspecting something is not good enough. So Section 3 has some information in it that I wanted to confirm, and it is confirm the general spacing of detectors in common areas, installation of detectors in lift shafts, and detectors for smoke control are indicated as separate zone and duct detectors are correctly labelled. So those three things are what I need to confirm from Section 3, which are the general requirements. And if we go to Section 3 of 1670, go back up to Section 3, you'll find a bunch of stuff, and you just look through this and look at the things that would be critical to the performance of this system. And I've nominated a number of things in Section 3. For example, if you've got door release control, you would reference that and make sure that all of that was covered. Sub-indicating panels, location of detectors. So if you don't have your plan, which we don't have a plan of where the detectors are installed, then how can you confirm the detectors are installed in the correct locations? Well, you've got to do a general confirmation of that based on what this information says. And the spacing of the detectors, and it gives specific spacing of detectors for smoke control as well, which we'll get into a little bit in a minute. And so we just need to understand, and you guys are experts at this. If you're doing this measure, you're probably already an expert at it. If not, then you simply look through the standard and determine via a survey that the detectors have the correct spacing for the particular application of the installation. Okay. So duct sampling detectors are not labelled to indicate the zone. I've just made this up. Oftentimes you'll be missing labelling and stuff like that. So if you've got a duct detector, it must be labelled in accordance with the zone. A visual inspection and review the block plan to confirm that the detectors, and the zoning. So if I've got detectors installed in ducts, those detectors must indicate as a separate zone and they must be labelled. And essentially that's what I'm saying. I'm checking. It's a requirement of 1670, generally not confirmed in AS 1851 records. So I've actually done a visual check on that, being a survey. 1670.3 Section 3. So as I said, I didn't want to, put it all into one section. So I just made two different aspects of 1670. Confirm the battery backup capacity of 72 hours is available. The FIP is located within the building designated entry point, clearly visible and unobstructed, and there's been no alterations to the system. The service records don't provide a clear indication of the battery capacity required, so I've failed that. I went back to the building code. There is no alarm signalling device required for this system. it doesn't have alarm signalling. If you go to the spec, there's a section 6 for building occupant warning systems, which we'll cover. System monitoring. So in the 2014 version, Class 2 buildings are not required to have a monitoring system in them. Therefore, they require a 72-hour battery backup, and I couldn't confirm that, so I failed it. Section 6 we seen was the OWS. So Section 6 of the building code was confirmed. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. So that's 1670 completed. I'm happy or not happy that 1670 has either been validated or not. The spec also requires AS 3786, which is smoke alarms. So oftentimes in Class 2 buildings, you'll have a general detection system in common areas, and they'll use smoke alarms for the sole occupancy units. So 3786 has specific requirements around the locations of the detectors. So I'm just confirming the smoke alarms are installed in the sole occupancy units and are correctly located and are within the expiry date. So that passed. The visual inspection confirmed the installation, and a review of the service record confirmed the smoke alarms are within their expiry date. So two things that are critical to the performance of 3786. The standards are often very long, and we've just got to look through the standard and determine what aspect of that standard would I consider critical to the performance. Anything in here that we nominate as being critical, if it fails, then the measure would fail. That's my logic anyway. Okay, so we're now down to the last aspect, which is 1668. So more and more now, they're referencing 1668 around smoke detection systems that have smoke control or air conditioning shutdown, for example. 1670, if it's just air conditioning shutdown, the BCA in 1670 pretty much covers it. When you start to get into smoke control connected to fire detection systems, then they may reference 1668. So when we look at 1668, it's pretty interesting. You open 1668 around smoke control, section 4.10 is the related part of 1668. And it has specific requirements about automatic smoke detectors for system control. You read through that and you determine what aspects of that are going to apply to my building or my particular system. And essentially, it's all about the location of the detectors and the sensitivity and type of the detectors. So we have to confirm that the detectors are located where they're supposed to be located in relation to the system control. So what aspect of the system is being controlled? If it's a duct detector, it's got to be in a certain section of the duct. If it's smoke control, it's got to be within certain areas around lifts, for example, or around the smoke, the area within the smoke control system. So I've just looked at this, and we would need to look at and confirm the smoke detectors or fire detectors, whichever we used, were actually in the right locations. And if we don't have a plan, where else can we go other than the standard of reference, which in this case is AS 1668? So my checklist simply says that I've confirmed the location and sensitivity of the smoke detectors used for smoke control system, and the AC shutdown detectors indicate the zones. So 1668 says that any smoke detector used for smoke control must indicate as that zone on the panel. We should be confirming that if we can't confirm it via the test results or the log, because oftentimes the test results really don't give us specific information about these parts of the system. Oftentimes it's just a tick box. The detector locations and spacing were confirmed with section 4. Can put this in here. Confirm the detectors installed for operation of mechanical functionality operate the system in accordance with the functionality chart. So this is going to be a review, and I would need to review the functionality chart and confirm that the detection system actually operated the fan or the shutdown or whatever it had to do based on the functionality chart. Although we may be relying on the mechanical person to actually complete the functionality chart, which is oftentimes the case, the detection person has to work in conjunction with them, and it's more than just setting off the detectors. If we're setting off detectors to activate smoke control or air conditioning shutdown, we've got to verify what indication we're getting on the panel. And in some cases, we've got to indicate or confirm the time delays of the indication on the panel, the time delays of the operation of the fan, which is often done by the mechanical person. So there's a bit of a crossover on this, but the 1668 is mentioned on the schedule. We've got to look at 1668 and see what part applies to smoke detection. And I believe that I've got to confirm that detectors are installed for operation of the mechanical functionality, operate the system in accordance with the functionality chart. I've failed that because I don't have a functionality chart. So I don't have any system design. Look, it would take me a long time to go through 1668 and 1670 and the building code, all three of those documents, to actually determine how this system is supposed to function based on what the performance requirement is. And somebody should have done that and already provided me under the design the functionality chart. If that's not available, guys, then really you can't pass it. You may be able to test it. You may be able to determine that the system functions, but doesn't function correctly. You would need to be, you'd need to create a functionality chart and then verify it against the standards. So I failed it and I said the system test could not be confirmed due to the functionality chart availability. Okay, so that's the methodology that we should be using. The item is how we plan to verify. The reference is what we plan to verify. The details gives us specific details of the aspect of the reference or the performance standard that we're verifying. This indicates whether that aspect is critical or not critical to our performance. Then we've got a pass or fail. Any aspect of the pass or anything that is critical that fails ends up in a fail up here on our measure. And then our comments are just general comments on how we verified it or what our obstacles were for verification. And that's pretty much it. So most of this is done, in my opinion, before we even go to site. The good part about this is if you do and create some kind of a checklist or audit checklist, you can use that audit checklist forevermore for that particular site. So invest the time in creating a detailed audit checklist and use it to do your fire safety assessment. Okay, so I'll stop this video and I'll put it up for you to look at.